Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Tuesday evening Ask the Doc call. It is so great to see everyone. I am Lynn Matthews, and it is such a pleasure to be here discussing this revolutionary way to approach wellness and vitality. If redox is a new term for you, you are in good company. Most people who are working with this had never heard it before, and yet it is truly one of the largest fields of international research in medicine and science. Everything in your body is a redox reaction. Literally, it's the energy that powers all life. So we're going to dive into that and explore not only what it is, but why is it so profound to our wellness, to our longevity, et cetera. The biggest thing for us tonight is for you to get your questions answered. Dr. Hoffman, who is back, and I'm thrilled that she is back, she's going to go over a presentation explaining what this is. And while she's doing that, if you have any questions that pop into your mind, just put them in the chat, and we will reserve some time at the end of her presentation to go over those questions and answer them to the best of our ability. And I say to the best of our ability because this company opted not to go down a pharmaceutical path. This is not a drug. And so because of that, our hands are kind of tied by the FDA. We can't make any claims that this cures or prevents anything, and we can't use disease names. So while you're asking your questions, if it happens to have a disease name in it, Dr. Hoffman will answer your question, but it might sound like she's being indirect. And it's because we can't talk about disease names. So I just want to make sure everybody knows that. We're not trying to avoid your questions. We are just trying to stay compliant so that this incredible technology stays out there for all of us to benefit from. And there's so many ways to benefit from it. Some of you might be here tonight because you have health challenges, or maybe you have a loved one that has a health challenge and you're kind of exploring if this could be the missing link in your healing journey. Others are here because they like to be proactive with their health, right? Stop things before they can get a label from your doctor. And then some people are here because they're very athletic. And you don't have to be a professional athlete, an Olympic athlete, to benefit from these like those athletes do. You could just be, an average person that loves to go walk or bike or go to the gym. We can get the same benefits those elite athletes get because all of us could use more endurance, right? Faster recovery, more mental clarity. So we'll talk a little bit about the benefits for athletes. And then another reason people look into this technology is for the anti-aging benefits. We're all 24 hours older today than we were yesterday. We can't turn back that clock. But what if we could find a way to kind of disrupt the process of aging or interrupt the process of aging? And that's what we're going to talk about tonight, because we always think about aging when we see ourselves in the mirror. But as I love what Dr. Hoffman says, those wrinkles on the outside are just a reflection of the wrinkles on the inside and what's happening with our organs and our cells as we get older. So we're going to talk about the importance of the anti-aging aspect of what these redox molecules do. And then there's another reason many people look at this, especially if they've tried it and they've had a result, or they've seen a family member get a result. And that is that they're interested in trying to figure out how they can help others. Because when you have a cutting edge technology like this that is truly so profound and helps every person, there's an opportunity, right? There's an opportunity to make a difference beyond yourself. And although we don't have time tonight to go into that, if that is something that you would like to explore, if this product or the stories about it have touched your heart and you want to make a difference in the world, on Saturday mornings, Dr. Hoffman's colleague, Dr. Silverman, does a 1 hour presentation. The first 30 minutes, he'll be answering questions about the product. And then they kind of switch gears at the top of the hour at 11 o'clock East Coast time and share what it is like to bring this technology to market to help people get educated, like this Zoom tonight. So figure out what reason you're here. For me, it was two or three of those reasons that I looked at it initially. Be sure you put your questions in the chat. And I am going to turn this over to Dr. Hoffman, who I met, I think, 6 years ago. And that is one of the things I love about this company. I don't know that our paths would have ever crossed. And she's become a dear friend and colleague. We do this every Tuesday night when we're both in town. So it's great to have her back. She is a traditional naturopath, and she has been in that field for over 22 years. She also sits on the medical board for this company, ASEA. And I love that because it gives her not only her decades of knowledge as a wellness professional, but it also gives her insight into this technology specifically. And she has just a beautiful way of explaining it that makes it so that all of us who are not in the medical field can really understand why it's such a profound breakthrough for all of us. So Carolyn, I'm going to turn this over to you.
There we go. Yeah. Welcome, everyone. Super to be back with you. I feel like I've been away for ages, but as usual, it's always fun to work with Lynn. And we're going to get into all those things that she talked about. As a health professional, I fell into this back in 2017. I wasn't exactly looking for something else, but I'll talk a little bit about the gel technology, which was the thing that I explored in the first place that did some really profound things and got me scratching my head and saying to myself, well, I wonder, what else this could do. And some amazingly impactful shifts for my husband's health in particular that changed dramatically within two weeks of using this technology really had me saying, okay, I have to stop and I have to pay attention and start to understand what is it, why is it this one particular thing made such a profound impact in his ability to exercise and breathe adequately. And we had spent 22 years researching everything that had come across my path in that time, trying everything for him to try to give him some relief from some of the assisted technologies that people use in that challenge. And nothing had ever really made any particular impact. And when this changed everything in 2 weeks, it was like, okay, I've really got to understand how is it that one thing could make such a dramatic impact in this way. And as I started to journey and study a lot more about it and try to wrap my own brain around this whole field of redox, I encountered a new client and I used it also for her out of curiosity. And I had another one of those major aha shifts where she had gone through 30 years of autoimmune conditions related to bites that she'd experienced 3 times in that period, and didn't have a life with all those challenges that people have with that particular issue. And it was just a chance in reading and diving into this field of redox biology that made me say to her, you might want to try this for yourself before you come and see me. It may be the missing link that kind of pulls everything together for you. I had no other experience other than what my husband had seen, but it was a total shift again that was completely unexpected. I mean, 30 years of challenges for her just changed entirely within 30 days. And I knew that I had my hands on something very different, although I really didn't understand why. So I'm going to try and explain some of that why for you, and share some slides with you so that you can look as well as listen, because we learn in different ways. And let's talk about this whole field. And Lynn, if you can give me a thumbs up if you can see that slide. Yep. Okay, good. So interestingly, Lynn used the word revolution, and so too did I, and she hasn't seen any of these slides, so there you go, we're actually tuning in on the same field. But I want to talk about what is truly this wellness revolution. And by the time we finish, what I hope is that you will see, as I believe, as I've seen in practice now for nearly 7 years, that it really is the first and only time that I've got to a point where I can really help put people in the driver's seat of their own health at whatever age you are. Now, you might be here because you don't have the wellness that you want, and that's great. That's okay. We're going to talk about how that can help you improve that process. But maybe you have the wellness, but you're in that notion of, well, I want to keep that, which I think, of course, is really important. But I want to start by saying that I think, we probably all agree that it's not living to be old that is necessarily important, but it's living in health at whatever age we are that's the key thing, and that should be the priority. And if that's something that you resonate with, then just tap in me in the chat and let's see if we're on the same space. So what does wellness mean to you? I don't know if it's your health goal is number one to be things like pain-free, no medications, and get rid of those endless doctor's appointments, or whether it's number two, sustaining health and performance through a kind of more preventative anti-aging mindset. But at the basis of any health goal runs this fundamental thing called energy. I'm sure we all know what that is. We need it in our life. Well, we know if we think about it, right, especially at the beginning of the year when everybody goes on these fitness challenges, it's the beginning of New Year, we set all these New Year's resolutions. We all know that it takes a lot more effort to get back in shape than it does to stay fit. And that's no different than it is for our health as well. So if you're here tonight because you can resonate with that, I've tried everything and nothing worked, I can relate to that. I felt very much the same even as a practitioner. I was very much frustrated in the few years before I found this redox technology through looking at supplement after supplement for clients and always feeling like we never quite made it where we wanted to get to. And it wasn't just even about my clients. It was also about me as well, feeling like my home reflected my office, looking like a pharmacy of a different nature, right, with herbs instead of drugs. So I was always hoping that there would be something that would come across my path that would be the thing that kind of clicked in and helped to be able to shift everybody to this space where we wanted to get them, but without tons and tons and tons of supplements to do it. And so, as I said at the beginning, this is the first time since I've been in healthcare that I've been able to really put my clients back in the driver's seat of their own health for a change. And we'll talk about why. I said energy is at the center of all our health goals and our wellness. It's at the center of health and living as a whole. And if we examine live blood analysis, you're going to see from this screen here that, healthy blood reflects basically abundant energy. Every single one of those cells has oxygen attached to it. Whereas on the right side of the screen, what we've got is this very unoxygenated, very unhealthy blood that stagnates. In other words, there's no energy in life when we're unhealthy, and there's tons of energy when we're healthy. Now, when our cells are healthy and they're fully charged like a battery, right, we have this energy necessary to live life to the fullest, to enable our body to repair and to heal rapidly. And that's a key focus, rapidly. Like our cell phones and our cars, they may work very well without a battery that's fully charged. We do not. And so that's the difference. We have to have these fully charged batteries to have abundant energy for living our life and for healing. And so we have 70, I find it kind of interesting, 70 to 100 milliwatts is the energy frequency of a healthy cell. Isn't that interesting that we have 70 to 100 trillion cells in our body, that it literally matches that number? And if they are fully charged, and they need to be that way if we want to live a healthy, vibrant, long life. Now, the other side is, imagine what it's like to wake up exhausted every day, right? Unable to recover from just doing simple tasks or whatever your goals are during the day, or just constantly not feeling well or being sick. Well, depleted cellular energy leaves us struggling to basically function, and we're not able to live literally every hour of our day at our maximum, doing everything that we want to get done. And if you're thinking today, well, there are things I can't manage to do because I just run out of energy, then your cells probably aren't at that optimal. They're not recharging where they should be. So if you feel underpowered, type in a yes in that chat bar for me. Now, people spend hundreds of dollars on supplements and they still don't always feel vibrant. So why is it that they're not having this greater impact that we hope that they would have? The supplement industry, as you look at it in the time span, started back in 1945 and really kind of blossomed from 1994 onward. But just as with our food, it's not what we eat that is key. Of course, that's important, but that's not the key. It's what we absorb. And so what I see is lots of challenges with absorption, tends to be inconvenient taking tons of supplements and swallowing pill after pill. And often a lot of them really don't give us what we need. But I always began to wonder, since I was in this arena, providing my clients with lots of supplements, was there something else that was key to why it wasn't having the impact? Well, just like constructing our house, building the blueprint of healthy cells requires both the materials and the labor. But what happens if the labor doesn't turn up, those workers don't turn up, the house doesn't get built? Well, building our healthy cells is actually no different. So let's talk about what that means. So where does this labor come from? Right. Well, the mitochondria are these cellular batteries that we have. There's tons and tons in every single one of our cells. And they're known as the powerhouse of the cell because they are critical in this role of generating energy that makes things happen in our life. As we breathe at the moment, we need energy for that. As we speak, as we live, as we sleep, everything requires energy. Within the cells, the mitochondria is using the saline or the salt water for those chemical reactions within the mitochondria to produce this thing called ATP, adenosine triphosphate, which is the energy of every cell. So with the necessary materials, in other words, our food for the sugar that gets burnt and the energy for the oxygen, who's communicating what to do with all this energy, right? Who's telling the body where it should push the energy, what it should do with it? Who decides to tell the body which organ system has a priority on the resources of our energy? Right? Because communication is necessary. You still need instructions, just like building the house. You need an overseer to direct the labor and use those materials to build the house. So what happens in the human body? Who's doing that direction? Well, it comes from this thing called our redox potential. This is the signaling messengers that are basically moving energy around from cell to cell. They give these instructions to basically make life happen. That's a really key thing. Not just health, but life happen. And you know what's so interesting is back in 1937, Albert Szent-Györgyi, who actually got the Nobel Prize for discovering vitamin C, nailed it. Right back then, he nailed it. He said redox reactions are at the very core of life on Earth, the core of life on Earth. So in other words, every plant is governed by redox reactions, every animal is governed by redox reactions, and everything about a human body is governed by redox reactions. But if you look at the bottom, he just nails it again. He said, life is nothing but an electron looking for a place to rest. In other words, energy, right? Little bundles of energy saying, where should I go? What should I do? Who should I help, right? It wants to give away the energy and make things happen. It transforms. So not only is that saline that we talked about in the mitochondria the basis of the ATP, but the mitochondria also makes these reductants, negative charges, and oxidants, positive charges, which science has put together as this field of redox biology. It does it by breaking apart the components of saline. So we have the sodium, the chloride, the hydrogen, and oxygen, just 4 simple components which make up the liquids within the human body. We all know we're made of saline, right? If we sweat, we taste salty. If we cry, we taste salty. If we go to the hospital, they give us saline because that's what the body has to use. It's the material. And what it does is that these signaling messengers then play this complex game of Scrabble, right? They're rapidly assembling and disassembling saline components, those 4 components, to make up other instructions, other messaging signals that make things happen. And they're responding all the time literally in lifetime to what the body needs. And so it's constructing different things at every millisecond of the day to make everything work correctly, also, we hope. So let's look at redox evolution, right? Because if you're on the call and you said, like Lynn said, you know, you've never heard of redox, and you might be one of those people that says, well, if I've never heard of it, it can't be real. I would love to hope that that's not you, because, you know, there's no way that any of us can know everything that goes on in this world, and science moves way too fast. And if you're a doctor, and you graduated after 2010, you might know something about it. But if you graduated before 2010, it wasn't part of your education. So be careful, because if you do talk to a doctor or you take this technology to your doctor, if they haven't been bothered to take their own time and go and actively choose to learn something that's not part of their education, they're not going to know anything about it. So they're not going to be the place to ask for advice. But let's look at this. 1832. Right? So even if you know nothing about it, science has been exploring redox. Started as this notion of radicals and this free radical biology, which has been retermed redox biology, because they know it's so much more than just free radicals. But in 1840, they're talking about the fact, and this is key, that this inability to isolate these molecules, these fast-acting molecules, did not mean that they didn't exist, but they recognized back then that they combined too quickly to isolate them, right? We talked about how quickly they move in the cells and recombine different things, but they already knew that these things were so fleeting and so fast that it was pretty hard to kind of isolate something that's that quick. But we come down to 2016 and we're looking at the fact that they know the redox is at the basis of essential health, and that when we're out of balance in a sustained way, in other words, a prolonged way, then what this does is result in disease. So it's at the basis of health and life. Now, look at that phrase, 1840, right? And here's this beautiful understanding of the fact that a scientific challenge was, how do you get hold of something that's moving around so fast that you can't isolate it? And we bring together the intersection of, in our time, Verdis Norton, vice president and retired from Kraft Foods, and Lynn is going to pick up this story about his importance here. And he intersected with a publicly traded company who spent 10 years researching these fast-moving molecules, trying hard to do what everybody said wasn't possible, to stabilize something that moves that quickly and shifts, basically. Long and short of it was, he managed to pull together a team of scientists and PhDs who did the impossible. By using electrolysis, they took these molecules, they split open into the components that the cells do in the saline. And I think of this as suspended animation. You have these volatile little signals who are all ready to go to work that just basically get suspended in this mild saline solution, ready to go to work when something happens, when they come in contact with us. And so that's the beauty. It's basically you've got this bottle ready to work on you, and you're the catalyst. And so we have a diagram there of exactly what redox potential is. It can now be measured literally to specific voltages, and we know so much about this science in how we can make that breakthrough happen. Here is where it happens, with 7 patents and over 200 trade secrets in this facility. This is where the magic of the impossible takes place, taking saline through different stages, using electrolysis to break apart the bonds, and then put these active signals into this suspended animation for use all over the world. And this is the breakthrough that suddenly puts control in the hands of us as the average person, being able to do something that's going to influence something so foundational for your health that you are now empowering your body, and you can be the one to decide how much you want to impact your long-term support for your health. This is the world's first and only cell signaling supplement. As I said, suspended in that bottle are all these bioactive redox signaling molecules. They all get third-party validated. This is manufactured to the same standards as drug manufacturing. And so that tells us with this certification, one comes from, we have locations in Spain and Germany, which are redox biology laboratories where they specialize in this, and they are able to tell us and prove for us that what we buy is definitely in that bottle. So if anyone tells you, oh, it's just salt water, it's sheer ignorance and it's a lack of understanding. It's not that they're stupid, but it's just an ignorance about what this process is and the science behind it, because it starts with saline, but it's transformed into these suspended redox signaling molecules. We meet all of these amazing standards of production, meeting standards for sports, which is also important. We'll talk about that side of it, but it's an FDA approved facility, GMP, halal, kosher, and just an incredible product. Why is it still the first and only? Well, if you're thinking back to the last century, supplements have lists on the back because they have ingredients, right? Maybe they've got ashwagandha, or they've got blueberries in there, or they've got pomegranate, or they've got turmeric or something. Those are physical materials that are combined together to make a supplement in a capsule or a pill. And the FDA requires you to list all the ingredients, just like baking something, right? You have a recipe, right? But what we have here is suspended chemistry. So there is nothing, if you pour that out and analyze it, there is nothing anybody can say, oh, now I know what it's made from, I can go and reverse engineer it. But some of you may be saying, aha, but I've read the label, right? And the label says water and sodium chloride. And that's because no one knows what to do with redox. And when this came to market in the States, they looked at it, there isn't a category for redox, and they said, oh, you fit in the supplement industry. In Europe, we're actually considered a food. In Taiwan, we're considered a water. So that kind of might give you a sense of how nobody knows what to do with this. But in the United States, because we're in the supplement industry, supplement rules are based around those things with materials, and therefore you have to have a list of the ingredients. Now we start, as we said, with saline because that's what the body uses, but we transform it, and it's not, there is very little of that saline left by the time we're finished. But of course, people again who don't understand the science might say, oh, it's only salt and water. Let me tell you now, you can't go out in your kitchen while we're on this and make some redox. That's not the way it works. There's millions of dollars of science behind it. But redox signaling molecules do a number of crucial things to keep us alive. They help to detect when we have a damaged cell. They will protect the natural lifespan of every healthy cell, wherever it is in the body. And all of those cells have a different lifespan depending upon whether they're a bone and they're very slow growing, or whether they're in our eyes or our stomach and they change quickly. When it detects a damaged cell, it brings in the recruiting side of the healing mechanism of the body, and it says, let's assess this. Can I repair it like a cut? Or do I need to delete this unhealthy cell to kill it off and replace it with a nice new healthy one? That would be important, wouldn't it, for some people who've got challenges with cells that keep replicating in a bad way? You'd want to hear the delete message. All right. We also know that redox is crucial to maintaining a healthy genetic expression. That's important if you want our blueprint to be accurate every time we remake another form of our DNA. And lastly, but not least, is the adaptive response, the ability of the body under stress to be able to mount a defense mechanism, our immune system. I will tell you that when you are sufficiently under stress, the immune system switches off. If you get into that very vulnerable place for a long time, it's why you become so susceptible to long-term diseases. We need to have a strong, stress-resilient cell that can defend us against anything that's coming its way. I'll talk about the genetics. We do studies on our product. This is done kind of all over the world now because we have about 24 different universities coming to us asking to study what we have here because they're seeing unique things happen. But in 2017, Torrent Labs, who's extremely well known for genetic research, did an 8-week double-blind placebo-controlled study. There's some unique factors in this. They took people who were 35, who felt perfectly healthy. They ran their blood and they looked at their genes, and lo and behold, at 35, they'd already started turning off. That's kind of key point to know that 35 is that tipping point beyond which everything seems pretty determined to go downhill much faster than it did before that point. They put them, the test group, on 8 ounces of the ASEA Redox. And 8 weeks later, they retested all of those genetic signals. 100% of the people in that test group had a 20 to 31% sustained and beneficial improvement in 5 gene signaling pathways. The control group were actually put on the plain saline that we use before it goes through all of the multiple processes to become redox signaling molecules. And that had a 0% response. That's kind of unheard of because we know in our mind, if we think that something's going to help, and we know in science, they can always show that that placebo effect does make some shift, but here it made none whatsoever. So the key thing is to look at what did it keep at a more efficient level. What would be important? Immune system, cardiovascular health, gut health and digestive enzyme production, modulating hormone balance and vitality and wellness, maintaining a healthy inflammatory response, and supporting the body's ability to respond to external stresses. You know what? It doesn't really matter what age you are, how well you are, how challenged you are with health, right? The first one, the immune system, and the one right down at the bottom, inflammatory response, is the foundation of keeping healthy. Everybody needs that. And to me, I was so excited when I saw this study, not long after I started using this product, but it proved to me why I was already seeing uniform and consistent changes in gut health, because that's my specialty. And it was just here, I was able to see, wow, the science is validating what I'm seeing in my clinic. And I love that. I love when science actually just says, yeah, here's the reason why you're seeing what you're seeing. Other studies, and there are numerous ones of them, prove that we have a 100% non-toxic product here. Safety studies, you can drink as much of it as you want. You can't be allergic to it because, as Albert St. George talked about, right, it's in pets, plants, and us, right? So you can't be allergic to something you're already producing. And what is really unique, more than any other traditional supplement with a material like a capsule, herbs, etc., and foods, there's no drug interaction. I have nothing else that I can say that of, that I can safely add this to somebody's regime and just say, stay on your medications, and then let's just track the changes. And we talk to your doctor and make adjustments as your body seems to say, I may not need as much medication as I thought I needed before. We have an 800% increase in glutathione. If you're not familiar with that word, learn it fast, right? It's your master antioxidant. It's the root of all healing, and over 82 known diseases are tied to a lack of glutathione. The older we are, the less we have. The sicker we are, the less we have, and the older and the sicker, it gets worse, right? This is your master way in every single cell of putting out the fire with an antioxidant that we are producing all the time. Much more powerful than anything that you're going to consume through food or supplements. You can see other statistics there, but I want to just make sure you notice improves apoptosis of stress cells. That's hearing the call to delete when you're not a healthy cell. Right? NRF2, our most recent studies coming out of both the University of Bath in the UK and Western Australia, show that we increase our internal production of antioxidants, that's the NRF2, by 60%. not only by drinking, but they did a study on the skin where the skin cells no longer were able to produce the antioxidants effectively. They kind of died off. And they put the Renew 28 there, and it kick-started this and pushed it up by 60%. This is making cells come alive again. I mean, this is like stuff out of science fiction, right? 40 to 55% increase in glutathione there. And this last one, I think, is going to be really interesting. I don't know where it's going to go in terms of us as humans, but they took well-recognized worms of a certain type that are used in science a lot because they match us as humans for a large portion of our genetics. And they had a 15% increase in their lifespan using ASEA Redox, the liquid. So if you want a healthier life, I'm not suggesting you become a worm, but you might want to drink some of the ASEA. So why do we age? Well, why do younger people recover faster? Why do they heal quicker, right? Why do they have less disease? We know this is true. We know we used to heal quicker, recover faster, probably felt healthier when we were 10, 15, 20 years younger than we are currently. Well, because science actually has discovered that these redox signaling molecules, these essential signaling messengers, diminish at 1% per year from puberty. Not our 30s, not our 40s, not our 50s, but our teens. That's kind of a shocker, right? And built-in obsolescence is starting much earlier than we imagine. So science now, with this development of being able to harness and use stabilized redox signaling molecules, enables us to have control with literally the ultimate biohack. Why? Because you're going to affect every single cell in the body at the most foundational way that it works. So being able to rebuild your native redox signaling molecules, it allows us to amplify the signaling of every cell to hear the communication effectively the way it did in a much better state when we were younger. And as a result, what all of us who've been using this say is that we look and feel like we were 10 or 20 years younger than we are. Now, I'm 70 and I don't think I look 70, but I know I don't feel like I'm 70. So if you want to turn back that clock, I'm going to suggest that this is, again, one of the most important things that you could do. Lynn mentioned that we have athletes on it. There's a mouse study, if you didn't notice on that page, that showed the mice without extra cheese ran 29% further, right, when they were on the ASEA Redox. Mice don't run like that for nothing, right? But the power of what that showed was the reason why these professional athletes use it to power longer, better endurance, faster recovery, improve their athletic performance. Sean Burke on the bottom right is now beating records that he made in his 20s, and he's 60. Right? Again, kind of feels like a little bit like science fiction. Suddenly this fountain of youth to do things that, we were able to do, but because it's in us already and it's what enabled us to do these things originally. So these athletes love this, but another thing is that they are the Rolls Royce of the human performance. And if an athlete at this level is using a product, you need to pay attention because there's a lot of rigor behind what they can consume because their reputations and their jobs are on the line, their careers are on the line, but also everything that they get to consume is vetted by a lot of doctors. And so if it's vetted by them and it's good for them, I always want to use that. Now, one of the things I did was to take this technology, which is the same as the liquid, but they found how to stabilize it so that people didn't have to keep spraying the liquid on their skin for benefits, but could apply it. If you haven't used this, the same way that the athletes will use it, this is how I validated was the potential for this redox potential in my practice. And so I asked everybody who had anything that ached, or maybe it was a range of motion thing. Perhaps for you, it might be that you don't climb stairs like you used to, or you can't bend as easily. There's a limit to what you can do by comparison with what you used to be able to do. Take the gel, but rate your level of discomfort, whatever that is. Maybe take photos. If you can only bend, take a photo of how far you can bend, because it's really interesting to look at a pre and post photograph of what changes. We don't always see ourselves or feel it for ourselves. But rate that level of discomfort. Take the gel. You need to shake it a little bit because it is the liquid with a minimum of the silica in there. You can see it's totally clear. Just enough to suspend these active redox molecules, and then apply it to the area of the skin. That is the challenge. This is the wonderful opportunity of watching how fast these little molecules go to work, right? Because we are the catalyst. We've let the genie out the bottle, so to speak, by putting it in contact with us. And now they go buzzing around. Remember, life is an electron wanting somewhere to rest. In other words, it needs to give away its energy to rest. And put that on 3 times in 5 minutes. Wait 5 minutes after that. Check what you were doing. See if you can climb more stairs. See if you can bend deeper. See if your level of discomfort changed. Now, when I did this with my clients, I just simply said, I'm trying this out. Would you give me some feedback? And we went through this with everyone. I will tell you that in mainstream medicine, if you go to a pain clinic, they consider 50% improvement a success. I would feel like I was kind of failing my clients if I only got 50%. But here's the beautiful thing about this. It didn't matter whether it was a hip discomfort that went from an 8 to a 0 in 2 minutes, or whether it was congested sinuses that went from a 7 to 3 in 5 minutes, or whether it was a really severe discomfort in the head where you want to go in the dark or maybe take a tablet because you feel nauseous, and that went from a 9 to a 4 in 10 minutes. Or maybe it was a broken toe that the following day someone tells me I can't really see the bruising anymore and it's not hurting me anymore. It did not matter what it was, because it's all about cells. And all of those are examples of damaged cells that were kick-started into doing what they're designed to do, which is to heal, right, without a drug. And that was the cool piece. The redox technology, so how would you use this? We have the powerhouse of the liquid to rebuild from the inside. We have the Renew 28. As I said, it's actually a skin product. If we think about aging, our cells slow down to at least 90-day turnover by the time we're 50, whereas when we're young, it's 28 days. And when they did a 28-day study, and within 28 days, our skin cells are kick-starting and they're turning over 16% faster again. That's true anti-aging. But you can see smoothness, texture, elasticity, and improvements also in cellulite. The Renew Advanced Intensive Serum is twice as concentrated. It's a smaller bottle designed for those fine lines and wrinkles, but it's a beautiful product. And our most recent application of pure redox comes with the Redox Clay Mask. That's using bentonite to drive redox deeply, close up pores, really tighten the skin, make us look and feel amazing. And our athletes are using it for sore muscles. So there's an interesting one. And then we have how to target outcomes using redox science. Those powders in those packets that you can see on the left, the yellow targets specific energy function. The red is for mind, cognition, memory, focus, attention. The blue is for taking down anxiety and a sense of overwhelm. And calming the mind. Now, those you can drink, they'll activate in 15 to 30 minutes. You can put them singly or take them together, and you can drink them up to 3 times a day. They work in the moment, but they also work overall to improve those pathways long term, as well as actually protecting our telomere length. The purple one's really popular. That one you do just once a day. It's a vegan collagen designed to have those amino acids ready for delivery to build healthier skin, eyes, nails, hair, and it's also helping joints and muscles. Redox in the skin begins to diminish with aging, and so we support the skin with redox targeted skincare products. And as I said at the beginning, we need the materials that comes from our food, but we also need to put in what's not in our food anymore. So we have organic, whole food, non-GMO, and with the exception of the omega, which is from fish, these are all vegan products, and they target all the foundational things that we need for all those micronutrients and healthy oils for vitality and longevity and a biome support. Track your health. We want you to track everything about your health when you start. We want you to start drinking and then track it a week later and 2 weeks later and a month, and continue to watch what changes. Because when we do this, our body's going to decide where the priority goes, where it's going to direct that additional energy. So most of us will start with 4 ounces a day, 2 ounces in the morning, 2 ounces in the evening. At the end of 7 days, track and see if you spotted any shifts taking place. About 1 out of 10 people will see something. So if you're not one of those people, we suggest you double up, rebuild that energy, recharge your cells faster, and by going to 8 ounces a day. All our clinical studies are done on that level. And what we see is more changes happen more quickly for people. So it's great to witness. Now, at the end of a month, we're going to see about half the people are really getting excited about those changes. But at 90 days, you've recharged a lot more batteries in those cells. And what we're seeing is 90% of people are really loving the changes at that point. So understand your body's going to be going through a process of healing using this. It's going to work, make it work and support your process. But we don't know where you're going to fall in that. But just know that if you keep at it, it's definitely going to be working for you. These are examples of the show and tell, right? What happens on the before and after from the clinical side: tone, elasticity, calming the skin, reducing those fine lines that are the wrinkles on the outside, and calming and soothing irritated skin, for example. The radiance, as we call it, the purple one, this is Dr. Silverman was testing it out. You can see already photo damage changing, pores altering, wrinkles around the eyes changing, skin, hair, and nails. You know, that's just in 19 days. That's an amazing change here in that one. And age-associated cellular decline. This is the typical picture, right? We all know it. We're going to look older and look wrinklier as we get older. And we're also going to lose the energy. If we look in her eyes, she doesn't have the energy in her cells anymore. They're not charged. But when we bio-replenish with these redox signaling molecules, is we are going to combat aging. We're going to interrupt that process of aging. This is our real life story of Rosie, who at 84 started this product. Take photos. She didn't think it was doing anything. Thank goodness her son took a photo of her and said, yep, go have a look at this, Mum. I think it's working, she said. I will keep on it. But here she is at 91. And I will tell you, in over 20 years in this field, there's no single nutritional supplement with materials in it that can take someone who's 84 and make them look at least 10 years younger by the time they're 90. If you want more information, we have a lot of it, but also reach out to the person that brought you and invited you to this call. I'm going to move over to the ASEA ethos with Lynn. And so I'm going to stop share, and Lynn's going to pick up on the power of this interaction between Verdis Norton and this development of redox signaling.
Thank you, Carolyn. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. You know, the products stand on their own. They're quite remarkable. But when you understand how this all came to be, and the integrity and the humanity behind this and the people, Verdis Norton, as Dr. Hoffman shared, he came across this technology and he hired a team of scientists to try to stabilize it. While he was doing that, he was trying to find who he could sell this to, because he was a businessman. He was the vice president of international strategy for a $32 billion company, Kraft Foods. So for him, it was business. So while he had a team of scientists stabilizing the molecules, he got a group of a focus group together of people from all walks of life, friends, family members, colleagues, people from church, who had varying levels of health challenges. 6 of them quite severe enough where they were told basically to get their affairs in order. And so while they were testing out the product for him, he was talking to different pharmaceutical companies because he felt that that would be the best way, the best industry to sell this to, so that he could get this out to the world. And one of them was very interested. They flew out, they looked at all of his science, they looked at the previous company's information, and they said, look, what you have is phenomenal. We want it. And they offered him a very, very large sum of money, but they had one caveat. And that caveat was that all the people in his focus group and his family and himself had to come off this. If they wanted it, they had to come off of the product. If he wanted this check. And to his credit, there were those 6 people I mentioned seemed to be thriving after they started on this. And he said to them, look, I ethically, morally, I cannot take this away from them. And they said, well, then, if you can't do that, we walk away. And so he did. And I don't know what any of us on this call would do in that situation. It was generational wealth that they were offering him. But he just had the integrity. Those 6 lives meant more to him than that money. And at that time, that's when he decided that he was going to figure out a way to get this out to the world. And he knew, based on his position at Kraft Foods, he had brought many iconic products to market. He knew this was something that was so unique, you could not put it on the shelf of a health food store. Because like all of us, we've all been trained to look at the label, right? And as Dr. Hoffman showed us, people would pick it up and see that it was salt and water and think they could just mix it up in their kitchen. And so he knew it required education, like these Ask the Doc calls. He knew it required people who had had an experience sharing it with other people and telling them about it. And so he decided to bring it to market using word of mouth marketing or next level marketing. Which he was not a super fan of initially until he truly understood its power and this ripple effect that we can create with it. So he had a couple of things in mind. He wanted to make sure that he could bring this to the world. In fact, their mission statement is to better people's lives and be a force for good in the world. And in the 10 years that I've been honored to be with this company, I have watched that culture and that ethos play out. Because they are privately owned, they're not publicly traded. They don't answer to stockholders. So they can do what's best for people as opposed to what's best for the bottom line. Because oftentimes, as we know, corporations are driven by the bottom line. And obviously they're a company, they have to make money. But if it's a choice between, will this better people's lives or be better for people out in the field, then they're going to make that decision. And I've watched that happen as well. They have something in their ethos called ego and economics. They put principles, purpose, and people above ego and economics. And I thought that was just a beautiful piece of their ethos, and they live by that. He wanted to make sure that the culture of this company endured because he wanted a legacy company. He did not want a company like many of them out there that, push a product out there, make a lot of money, and then walk away. He wants this here for decades and decades and decades to come. He wants to truly let humanity have this as a gift. And to me, that is as important for the reasons that I am still with this company. As I said, the products I will always have. But linking arms and doing these calls with Dr. Hoffman, talking to people, helping people get educated about this, it is all because of the culture of this company, and they truly, truly care about humanity. They have created a community of like-minded people who just want to make a difference in the world, and we have a lot of fun doing it. We're very serious about what we do, but we also have a lot of fun. And I think, we're all on this earth to make it a better place. And what better way to do it than this way, where you're impacting lives in so many different ways. So the ethos, I think, is worth understanding. And there are the person who invited you, there's some little videos with the founder, Tyler Norton, talking about the 8 different components of this ethos. And then again, like I said, if this is something that has touched you at a deeper level than just the products, and you're thinking that, there's some people that you'd like to share this with, or maybe you'd like to get involved and do things like sharing it with others. I see some people on here who I know have been sharing it with a lot of people. It gets into your soul. It really does. This company has a soul, and it touches you at such a deep level. And if that's something you want to do, join us, Dr. Silverman, on Saturday morning, where he will talk a little bit more about what it is like and why people even do this as a business, because it really does. It will warm your heart and make a difference in the lives around you. So I'm going to turn this back over to you, Carolyn. I know I saw a couple questions in the chat, but for those of you who are on, If you've got any questions, we've got several more minutes, so please put them in the chat and we'll start on those next. Oh, thank you. And Dr. Hoffman just put in there Saturday at 10:30 East Coast time, that first half hour. He'll talk about how to take it, and then answer questions. And then at the top of the hour, we'll switch over.
Okay.